Welcome to Skip the Queue, a podcast for people working in and working with visitor attractions. I'm your host, Paul Marden. In today's episode, Austwick and I talk about the Rubber Cheese Visitor Attraction website survey. After 6 weeks of data collection, we've seen some really interesting insights that we'll share, and we'll also announce a new digital sustainability initiative that we're really excited about. Slightly grey summer's day. Hopefully, all the private schools have broken up, so it should start to get busy in the attractions over the next couple of weeks, and then we've got all the state schools breaking up in the next few weeks as well. So exciting times. Hopefully busy times as well.
Yes.
Well, we are going to talk a little bit about the survey, but I thought it might be quite nice as well to talk a little bit about what's happening in the news, because there's quite a lot at the moment.
There is. I mean, it's been a bit of a change of boss, hasn't there?
Yeah, there has been a change of boss recently. But before we do that, shall we talk about where have we been recently? Tell me which attraction have you been to recently?
So this is why you're here, to keep me on track. The most recent attraction I've been to is Hazelmere Museum in Surrey. It's a bit of an eye-opener, to be honest. I've always had a bit of a love for these tiny little provincial, formerly council-run museums that you find in little towns around the country, because you come across some amazing gems hidden in them. But Hazelmere Museum is a little bit different. It's astonishing. It's got a vast catalogue of natural history stuff. I mean, hundreds of thousands of pieces in the catalogue there. And they've got an Egyptian section as well, with a sarcophagus and a mummy. And it's a great place. It's hidden away in this tiny little market town. And if you get the opportunity, go, because it's great. But there is no parking, so you have to park in the town centre and walk along, which is the only downside I can come up with. How about you?
Sounds awesome. I have been to a few tiny little museums, actually. Recently, I went to Winchester with my daughter, and we did some of the military museums in Winchester, because there's quite a few regimental museums in Winchester. And they are all of them hyper focus on a particular regiment, doing very specific things. So there's a cavalry museum and infantry museums, and it's just really interesting. My brother was in the army. It's quite nice to be able to take Millie and walk her around some of these military museums, and for her to connect with what he did when he was in the army. So we were able to see, there's a little piece in one of the museums showing the war in Kosovo and how peacekeepers went over, and my brother had a medal from going to Bosnia. He went to in peacekeeping back in the 90s, and so that was very interesting for her to be in a museum and connect with something that's of relevance to the family. He was slightly offended when I told him also we saw a model of Pegasus Bridge, and she was like, "Was he at Pegasus Bridge?" And I was like, "No, Uncle Barry's not quite that old. No, that's about 40 years too old for Uncle Barry."
Yeah, I went to Pegasus Bridge completely by accident once. Literally, we were just driving back and went, "Hang on a minute, this looks familiar." And we stopped off at the cafe and had a wander around the bridge, and you can still see the bullet holes in the walls of the cafe building, and there are still tanks. Amazing place. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
No, absolutely amazing. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the news at the moment.
Yes.
Anything that springs to mind for you?
Well, I mean, obviously the change of government. I think I don't think it came as a big surprise to anyone. Maybe the actual numbers were a little surprising, but the fact that we've now got a Labour Prime Minister with a fairly clear majority, I don't think was a massive surprise. How that's going to play out in terms of the sector, I don't know.
We've got a different culture secretary in place, haven't we, than we were perhaps anticipating. So there's a few changes of personnel than we perhaps anticipated.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll wait and see. It's probably just a result of the change, but I guess I'm feeling fairly optimistic that things might improve.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel an air of optimism that we haven't had for quite some time.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting times. Other things in the sector, I thought interesting, exciting news. The Young V&A were awarded the Art Fund Museum of the Year. That's a new museum that's doing lots of amazing work. We're a real focus on kids and families. Lots of co-creation with young people involved in it. So that's quite exciting stuff, and it comes with a really hefty prize fund as well. So they got quite a nice pat on the back, a gong, and some money as well to be able to fund their good work. So that's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good for them.
Yeah.
Anything else? Yeah, Bloomberg. I think we should probably talk a little bit about Bloomberg.
Yeah, absolutely.
Earlier in the year, we talked to a lot of people about the fact that Bloomberg Philanthropies were awarding grants as part of their accelerator program for attractions, culturally significant attractions, to improve their digital presence. And that's kind of happened. A lot of awards have been made. Attractions have got money to spend, and that's beginning to work its way out into the community now. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if that actually makes a significant difference to the overall level of websites. And I guess we'll probably have to wait until next year with the survey to find out if there's been a change in the sector. But I think for those attractions that have received the money, it can't be anything but a positive thing.
Yeah, I was quite impressed because it's not just money that they're getting help and support from Bloomberg as well to guide them in the use of that money, because I think sometimes you see charities getting awarded large chunks of money, and sometimes it can be a challenge for them to spend that money effectively. Whereas by being provided guidance from Bloomberg, that you can see that money is going to be well spent and well used. So I'm pleased about that. It'll be really exciting to see some of those projects come to fruition. I was pretty excited about a couple of science centre related news items. So We the Curious in Bristol has reopened after 2 years of being closed in fire. So I think that was monumental for them to be able to turn that around. I was really pleased to see them reopen. That's definitely on my list of things I need to do this summer, is go and visit them and see what amazing things they've done.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we've also got Cambridge Science Centre as well, will be due to open in a couple of weeks' time. So they've opened their ticketing up, so people can now buy tickets to go to Cambridge Science Centre, who have been a little bit like We the Curious. They've been without a physical home for a period of time, and are reopening a physical offering again. So that's exciting to be able to go and buy your tickets and head on over to Cambridge Science Centre.
And Kids in Museums as well. I'm not going to talk about it because I know you know a lot more about it than me, but they're looking for volunteers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we talked in a number of episodes about the Family Friendly Museum Awards, and shortlists of those have been announced. That includes Young V&A again, and we're looking for volunteer families to go undercover and do the judging, and I love it. The idea that families will get, they'll have a contribution to the costs of running, pay expenses for them to go undercover and do this judging. And the feedback we get from those families is amazing. At the awards last year, each time an award was announced, we get a little snippet of what the undercover judges actually said. And it's surprising what kids find important to them. The benches were comfy, or the cafe was nice. Little things that perhaps adults might not notice, comes out in that undercover judging. Kids in Museums need volunteers. Head on over to the website to go and find out a little bit more about that undercover judging if you'd like to get involved in it. But that's the news. But what do we really want to talk about?
We really, really want to talk about our survey, don't we?
We really do. It's exciting.
In fairness, we're kind of always talking about the survey at the moment. So now we're just going to talk to you about the survey rather than each other and anyone that'll listen.
Yes, absolutely.
We've been open for submissions for what, 6 weeks now?
About that, I think. Yeah.
A few weeks to go, and
Yes.
I think it's proving really, really interesting.
Yes.
Is
Absolutely.
that enough to hook? Have we got you now? I think one of the things that I think is probably worth saying is that somehow, and whilst we wanted this to happen, I don't think we specifically planned for it. We've kind of lost a lot of the kind of fake submissions that we've had in previous years, where people were clearly just having a look at the survey or not bothering to fill it in, or maybe it was bots doing it and we don't seem to have those. So the overall quality of the responses is just fantastic. And some of the venues that have submitted their data to the survey, I mean, they're astonishing. I'm not going to name any names because I don't know if I'm allowed to.
No, you're definitely not allowed to.
Some of the biggest and most famous attractions in the country, or even the world, because we are worldwide this year. But
more importantly, also the smallest museums you could possibly imagine are in that data set as well. So what have we seen? We got all of these amazing responses. We've still got a couple of weeks left to go. We don't want anyone to feel left out. We definitely want more people to respond over the next couple of weeks. But let's give some teasers. What have we seen that we thought was interesting?
Before we do, can I just make a couple of points that I think everybody needs to be aware of? The first is that any data you put in is absolutely confidential in every way. We're never going to release your data to the wider world. All the data that gets released is aggregated together and is done in a way that is completely anonymous. But what that does is it allows us to give sector-wide data, and we can give you your data in comparison to that so you can see where you are. So there's no risk of anything getting out in the wide world that you don't want out there. It's completely non-commercial. You know, we're not making money from this. We're not doing this. We're not asking for your data in order that we can make money. This is to give back to the community. We want people to have the information so that they can make the right decisions. And also, you don't have to fill in everything. And I think that's if you look at it and think, I ought to fill this in. I want to fill it in, but I haven't got time to do the whole thing. Do half of it. You know, that's okay. Even if you only fill in one question, that will improve the value of that answer to the entire sector.
Absolutely.
I'll shush now. Sorry.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the interesting findings. We've definitely found some things where we've gone, oh really? Oh, how interesting. So for me, one of them, I'm a tech geek. Everybody knows I'm a tech geek. Okay. Ticketing systems, content management systems, that's my bag. I was quite interested this year that we're seeing much more parity in terms of the ticketing system data that we're getting. So there was a number of ticketing systems where in previous years, there's been a substantial number of people selecting DigiTickets. In previous years, we're seeing more responses from other respondents this year with different ticketing systems. And I think we've said this before, these aren't necessarily indicating changes in the behavior of the sector. It more speaks to the different people that are responding in different years. And we're seeing more responses from different people this year. And so we are seeing different ticketing systems appearing alongside DigiTickets as key. I think even you spotted one weird thing, not weird, something that surprised you, didn't you, in that respect?
Yeah, absolutely. When we designed the survey, we went through all of the ticketing systems that we were familiar with and all of the names that we kind of knew but hadn't had specific experience of working with. And we created what we thought was a really comprehensive listing of ticketing systems. But we allowed people to tick other and then write in what they were using. And we clearly missed one big player from that list. And they're probably the highest ranked so far. I haven't actually looked for the last week or so. They're certainly up there. They may not be the most popular.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're one of the most popular. And it came as a complete surprise to us. So, do make sure that you get your report, because there is stuff in it that surprises, even if it's just me. I mean, but you may well be surprised by some of the results of that.
Yeah, we saw interesting shifts. So we've done a little bit of year-on-year analysis as well already. And we've seen that there are more people selecting WordPress as their CMS. So that's now around half of all respondents have selected WordPress as their content management system.
I'm going to take issue with your phrasing there, because I'm not sure that's an accurate description. Because I don't necessarily think we've seen more people selecting WordPress, but we've certainly had more people stating they use WordPress. They may have been
yes,
years, much like the ticketing system.
And so
it's a snapshot of the people who have submitted, and that shows more people have. Yes.
So I meant selected the tick box as opposed to selected the technology platform. But you're absolutely right. It is indicative of the responses that we're getting this year, and they're not eating away market share from the other CMSs. I think we're seeing more people being able to tell us what the CMS that they're using is. So fewer people are saying, I don't know, or I can't track this, and actually giving us an answer.
Yeah, we made a real to try and reduce the number of people just saying other, and I think that's made a big difference to these.
Up around is around 11% now, up from 4% in 2023. So that's quite interesting. We're definitely going to do some analysis this year to do to try and see can we slice and dice some of the other data by technology platforms to see if any of these platforms give those people that select them an edge in terms of their performance or their sustainability scores or things like that.
I know one of the things that we noticed last year was that the bigger, more successful venues were more likely to use Umbraco, or perhaps the other way around, the venues that used Umbraco were more likely to be the bigger, more successful venues, but there was no way of telling which was cause and which was effect, or whether they were just completely disconnected at all. And hopefully now, because we've got a slightly bigger sample size, we might be able to be a bit more accurate with that, rather than stating this is a correlation. Maybe there's something we can actually action from this.
Yeah. You had some interesting stuff that you saw around the how easy people find it to find stuff, didn't you?
Yes, absolutely. I think there's been a long debate that's been going on for longer than I've been with Robert Cheese about the value of self-reporting. And I know that there were some conversations with the advisory board that we put together to help design the survey this year about whether that was a valuable thing to do. And I think that because that's how we've done it for the last few years, we've stuck with it. But also, I think as long as you're open about the fact that this is self-reporting, the figure is still accurate. So when we ask people how easy it is for visitors to their website to find what they're looking for, over half of them ranked 8, 9, or 10 out of 10, so that it was very easy. And nobody ranked 0, 1, or 2. So nobody thought that it was really difficult to find stuff on their website. But 50% of sites have never actually tested the site or collected feedback from users. So how valuable that figure is a different question. We'll come to that later, because there's an important point that I think we're going to make later on about how we can make that figure more valuable.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. You also saw some stuff around personalisation, didn't you?
Yeah, the personalisation things are really important to me, because as a marketer, you go along to agency groups and conferences and workshops and webinars, and for years, if not decades, people have been talking about how important personalisation is. If you've got anybody in your organisation that works with email newsletters, personalisation is absolutely key. And it's really clear that the more you personalise, the better you do. And 90% of the people who filled in the survey agree that personalisation is more important than not. However, only 9% of websites are offering personalised content.
It's a bit heartbreaking, isn't it?
Yeah. Obviously, we don't know why. And we can say that even at this point, without the survey having finished, that's already up from last year. It was 6% last year, and now it's at 9%, which doesn't feel like a big improvement, but it's a 50% increase.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to slice that again and see,
absolutely.
Is that the 9% that have personalization, are they the attractions with larger footfall and larger budgets, and that's why they can afford to do this, and that's the big barrier to entry? Or is there something else that actually, no, that smaller sites with less traffic and less footfall at the attraction can still offer personalization? It's not just about budgets, and some people can use this stuff and get really good outcomes from it. Or does spending all that time and effort mean that you get no real outcome of it anyway, and that all of those people that think it's really important are kidding themselves? And that's the great thing about the survey, isn't it, that we've got all of this data and we can start to draw those conclusions from it.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is going to be a really interesting one to follow over the next year or two, to see if is this year's number an actual increase, or is it just a more accurate number? I guess that we can only see that as a trend over time.
Absolutely.
You were very keen that we included some questions about AI and the use of AI.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So the majority of people have used some sort of AI content generation tool. So they've used ChatGPT or the like to be able to do generative AI writing copy and that kind of thing. We've not gone into depth about how much they've used it. Do they use it extensively? Is it part of their day-to-day work? It was simply a question of, have you used any of these tools? So over half have used a tool like that. There's also hidden in that data set, there's a few attractions that are doing some pretty innovative things with AI as well. So there's a couple that are using things like AI-powered CRM or AI-powered scheduling or workforce management. Earlier on, you said everybody's submissions is completely anonymous. That is completely true, but I am definitely going to be tapping up those people that gave us the interesting answers to say, would you like to come and tell the story in more detail? So yes, you're right. We're never going to share anybody's data, and we're never going to share anybody's stories without their permission. We will definitely, over the next few weeks and months, as we're planning the report, we're definitely going to go to the people that have given us interesting data that has made us go, oh, that's very interesting, and talking to them. So we'll find out a little bit more about what those people are doing. But you had an interesting observation, didn't you? If half of the people have used something like ChatGPT, that leaves about half the people that haven't used it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really difficult to know from where we sit as a digital agency that is constantly trying to stay ahead of the curve and understand new technologies and how they might be relevant and how we can use them to help our clients. We may be, are we more familiar with this than most people, or is the way we see it representative? It's really hard to know. And I find it really hard to believe that approaching half of visitor attractions simply haven't even looked at it. They've not even gone to ChatGPT and said, find me a title for this blog post or something like that. It just seems that maybe they're missing a trick. And I'm not suggesting that you should go out and get vast amounts of content written by AI and plaster it all over your site. We know that Google is specifically and deliberately penalizing sites it knows are doing that. But you can certainly use it to maybe improve your language, or if you can't come up with a catchy title, you can ask for 12 different suggestions for titles and pick and choose. I find it really hard to believe that half the people haven't even done that, but that could just be my context.
I think you might be sat in a little bubble of your own making.
Well, absolutely.
I've sat with people recently and walked them through how do you prompt ChatGPT? What does prompting even mean? And talking about how is it doing it, and talking about the idea that it's all just probabilities. It's not intelligent. It's just using probabilities to figure out what the next word is. Yeah, and what does that actually mean to people? I definitely think that we sit in a bubble where we are not experts. Neither of us, I think, would consider ourselves experts. At best, gentlemen amateurs. But I think we sit in a bubble of people that are using this a lot, and are experimenting with it. And I don't know. I think there's a place for Skip the Queue to look at this next year, to look at what are the innovative things that people are doing, but also starting at the 101 class. You know, what does it all mean? What are these things? How could they be useful to you? How could you make use of ChatGPT to accelerate your content creation, to to come up with new ideas that you haven't potentially thought of. So definitely, I think there's space in season 6 for us to delve into this in more detail. There's one more area that I think we added this year that we're really excited about, isn't there? Around sustainability. Not because we think we are thought leaders on this, not because we think we're on the cutting edge, but because we're learning so much around this at the moment, and really changing the way that we work, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a really important point. It's something that which conference was it? I think we were both there. One of the agencynomics conferences. Joss from Enviral made the point that this is actually our problem. If websites are out there and they aren't sustainable and they are causing damage, it's the fault of the companies that have built them. And really, that's us. So we kind of feel that we have to be at least trying to take the lead in helping fix that. And you can't do anything to fix the issue unless you've got the knowledge and the understanding of where you are. And I guess that's where we are at the moment, is that we've asked a few really basic questions, but they've given some quite interesting statistics.
Yeah. So most attractions have got good intentions. So most have got a sustainability plan in place. We've not asked what that plan looks like or how comprehensive it is. It was simply, does your attraction have a sustainability plan? And most people have said yes to that.
Yeah. When you say it's a majority, I think it's quite important to note that this isn't like 56%. This is a huge majority. The vast majority of sustainability plan. To the point where you could say almost everybody does. Not quite everybody, but almost everybody. But that does make the fact that very few have actually specifically measured the carbon footprint of their website a little bit more shocking.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the big oh really moment for us, was the idea that most people have got a sustainability plan. Some have even actually taken action to improve the sustainability posture of their website. But very few have actually ever measured the CO2 emissions of their website. So they're not benchmarking. This is not a coherent plan where you measure, take action, measure again, and then replan. This is very few of the attractions have actually done that measurement process. You know, we know from recent episodes where we talked about sustainability, the importance of measurement in terms of helping you construct a plan and working in a methodical way to improve the CO2 emissions and improve that sustainability posture. And I think we've recognised as a result of doing the survey that there is some impediment that is stopping people from measuring. We're not entirely sure we understand what the impediment is, but there is definitely something getting in the way of people being able to measure. And I think this is the big thing that I wanted to be able to share today, that we have decided as a result of doing the survey and then started to run through. We could see that most people haven't tested the CO2 emissions. So what we have done is we've enriched the database of all of the respondents that we've had this year and gone and done the CO2 emissions tests of their websites for them. Now, obviously, we're going to keep that private to us. We're not singling anybody out, okay? But we are going to be able to aggregate together what the whole industry looks like as a result of the testing that we have done. And the testing, to be fair, is not just restricted to the people that have responded to the survey. We are also going and testing more widely across the entire sector to be able to get an understanding of what the CO2 emissions of the websites of the wider sector look like. So that's something that we've been really, really pleased that we've been able to do. And it's something that we want to be able to offer out to everybody that has taken part in the survey. So one of the things that I guess we're announcing today that is a key thing that we've not talked about throughout the whole survey process is we're going to give everybody that has taken part in the survey the opportunity to download the CO2 emissions report that we have gathered for them on their website. So they will be able to see a grading of A to F as to what their CO2 emissions look like. They'll also see that broken down in a little bit more granular detail around the page size, the amount of CO2 that is emitted by the page at one page of their site. And a rough estimate of what that turns into in terms of CO2 emissions for their entire site. And that's something that we will share with everybody at the end of the survey. So this year, it's not just going to be one large survey that aggregates everybody's data together. We will also give individualized reports to everybody for them to be able to see where their CO2 emissions are in terms of their website. With ideas, we're hopefully going to work with friends of Skip the Queue and supporters of the survey to be able to come up with ideas around how you can actually improve that CO2 posture, that could be an amazing thing for us to run the survey again next year, gather that data again and see, today as we're recording, BBC is running the Michael Mosley, Just One Thing, in memory of Michael Mosley, and I think we can take inspiration from that. There's what if every attraction that got access to their report did just one thing to improve the CO2 posture of their website? What difference is that going to make to us as a sector as a whole? In that 1 year process, because there will bound to be a few little things that you can do, knobs to twiddle and features to add on your website that will just improve that CO2 emissions posture just a little bit and make everybody better as a result of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really interesting that even though we haven't got the full data yet and we've not put it together in any meaningful way, it's already changed the way we work as an agency. But not only that, there are other changes going on in the wider community as well, because the website briefs we're getting through from attractions are talking about this more. So I guess from a personal perspective, if you're putting together a brief for a new website or an app or some kind of new digital service, put this in there. Ask that somebody pays some attention to the footprint and the impact of your new site, and make it part of the decision-making process.
Procurement managers have the control. I absolutely believe that the person that holds the purse strings gets to set the direction of the project. And just like accessibility is always on every tender, sustainability should be there. This is a easily, trivially measurable thing. And when procurement managers hold us to account, the industry will improve as a result of being held to account like that.
Yes. Now, the sustainability reporting isn't the only new thing that we're going to do. There's one more big thing that we're going to do as part of the survey to try and make the data far more valid and applicable. Do you want to say what it is?
Yeah, I'll take this one because this was an idea I had. It was an idea I had a few months ago. I would love to get real end consumer input into the survey. You know, we ask attractions, how important is personalisation? You know, have you done user testing? How easy was it for people to traverse your website? We're actually going to go out and survey people who have visited a large attraction in the last year, and ask them, how easy was it to buy your tickets? You know, we could be asking them about personalization. We could be asking them about, is sustainability a key deciding buying factor for you? You know, there's lots of things that we could ask people as part of this consumer research piece that we're about to embark on. I think it's really exciting to be able to join up the voice of the consumer with the voice of the attractions in the Rubber Cheese survey as a whole.
Absolutely. Not only will it give us that knowledge from the other side of the transaction, but it'll let us know really very quickly whether the self-reporting that people are doing as part of the survey is actually accurate. Is your view of how easy your website is to use, is that accurate? Is that the same view that people coming to your website for the first time have? Because, you know, we're all familiar with our own website. And if you've designed the user experience, you probably think it's great, and it may well be, but unless you actually test it and ask people, you can't know either way. So I think this is a really exciting thing to do, and it allows us to kind of draw in more important information that can help us all as a sector improve.
Completely. And we've got a little ask in terms of that, haven't we? We would love to hear from you if you have got input into that consumer research. If you've got ideas of things we could be asking real people that go to real attractions about how they use the website, you know, let us know. We'd love to hear feedback. Either you know, send us a message on Twitter, reach out by email. There's links all in the show notes that will help you to make contact with us. But please just make contact and let us know. We've got amazing feedback from the advisory board, and we will be talking about this piece of research with the advisory board before the survey goes out to the real people. But you've got a chance at the moment to be able to input to that. So please do let us know what you think would be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And whilst we're asking things of you, I've got a few more things that we want to ask.
Okay, go on then. What do you want? What do you want?
Well, all sorts of things. But for today, if you haven't filled in the survey, please do. Go along to rubbercheese.com. There's a link on the homepage through to the survey. There are different surveys for different parts of the world. Just click on the link, fill it in. You don't have to do the whole thing. Even if it's a partial response, it's still helpful. So please go along, give it a try. I'm led to believe, and I haven't tested this, so I'm not going to state it as a fact, but if you half fill in the survey and then go away and come back on the same computer using the same browser, you'll go back in at the point that you'd got to, so you can finish it. It depends on your cookie settings, but that's what is claimed. But even if it doesn't happen,
yes,
you know, a half survey response is better than none.
We'd also like you to nag your mates as well. You know, I've been messaging people that have been responding, and so many of the marketers that are filling in the survey are part of communities of other marketers. They're parts of communities, regional communities, Wales communities, or they're parts of, you know, sector-specific bits of the community. So military museums, or, you know, there's so many different groups and organizations that are working together. If you can please raise the profile of the survey, stick a link in your WhatsApp group with all the people that you work with around you, we would really, really appreciate that. Obviously, the more people that submit, the better the data set, the more money we'll donate to kids in museums as a result of what we do. And of course, now everybody that submits will get their personalized sustainability report at the end as well, which is another great incentive to get involved.
Yes. I guess the other thing is that if you filled in the survey before and you don't think you've got time to do the whole thing again from scratch, do let us know, because we can quite happily provide you with all of the previous answers that you've given that are relevant to this year's survey, and then you can just update or fill in the gaps. We're very happy to do that if it would be helpful. And still for those multi-site organizations, you know, if that's an easier way for us to provide you with a spreadsheet that you can just put data into, we're very happy to do that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the spreadsheet approach again lends itself very well. You don't have to answer everything. If you don't want to share information about the technology platforms you're using, that's fine. If you don't want to share information about your Google Analytics, that's fine. The more data that we get, even if it is partial data, it enriches what we've got, and we get a better picture of the entire sector as a result of that. So yeah, really keen to get input from more people. So that's our call to action. You've got one more thing you want to touch on, don't you? You've got your book recommendation that you want to share with us. So tell us what your book is.
Well, before I do, there are a couple of things I have to say. The first is that I realise that this is tangentially connected to the visitor attraction sector. That'll become clear, I'm sure, as soon as I reveal the book. The other is that I am an absolute massive history geek. So the book I would like to recommend, that if you haven't read this, is this book here, which is The Mary Rose by Margaret Rule, which is the story of the excavation and recovery of the Mary Rose itself. I don't know how old you are, dear listener, but I remember sitting in the hall of my school, my primary school up in Yorkshire, with a big TV in a box on a stand with this on the BBC Live, and watching it be raised from the depths. And that's kind of stuck with me. And it's lovely to read the story of it from the person who kind of made it happen. And then when you've read the book, go down to Portsmouth and have a look, because it is a very
good.
So yeah.
I guess it helps you with diving the 4D, because you get the fuller picture of the whole story, and then you go and dive the 4D experience, and you get to experience a little bit of what that excavation was actually like. And I bet you that like any good book to a movie, the book tells the story in much more detail than the movie ever can.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. In fairness, it's going to be tricky to get a copy of this book to somebody, because I don't think it's in print anymore. So it will be a second-hand copy. I've checked; you can get them. ABE Books has a few. So if you do,
are you going to bankrupt me?
No. It's not one of those second-hand books. Don't worry. It's probably cheaper than a new one. Now all the booksellers that are listening are going to put their prices up. But yeah, comment on Twitter X, if you want the book, and the first person we'll send it out to.
Yeah, so go find the show announcement, retweet it, and say I want Oz's book, and we will find that, and we will send a copy of the book. That will be a challenge for the team behind us that do all of the behind the scenes production, to actually try and figure out how you order a secondhand book and get it delivered to somebody different. It's easy on Amazon, not so easy on a secondhand book site, so that'll be interesting.
ABE Books is owned by Amazon, so you know there'll be a way, I'm sure.
Excellent. Look, that's a wonderful book. It's a wonderful location. If you haven't been before, it's an amazing attraction to go and visit. They've got a pretty good website as well. I think we've said it before.
It's true. I've heard good things about their website.
Yeah, they seem happy. So, look, great to talk to you again. As always, our little fireside chats are very enjoyable. We do tend to ramble on, so we've managed to fill 46 minutes with that. It's been awesome. We've got one more episode left of season 5, but planning is underway for season 6 in the autumn. So we're in the home straight now.
Yeah,
definitely.
Thanks, Oz. Make sure you follow, and you won't miss season 6.
Thanks for listening to Skip the Queue. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. It really helps others to find us. Skip the Queue is brought to you by Rubber Cheese, a digital agency that builds remarkable systems and websites for attractions that helps them to increase their visitor numbers. You can find show notes and transcripts from this episode and more over on our website, skipthequeue.fm.